Our next guest has been a regular on the show for many years, and we are always delighted to have him with us because there's always fun things to talk about. General Manager for Global Electronics Industry. He's got the world literally at his hands. From IBM is Bruce Anderson. Bruce, welcome back into Tomorrow. How are you, sir?
Good. It's great to be back, Dave.
Glad to have you with us. You've been living in China recently. Since we last spoke, I think you were just moving to Shanghai. How's that working out for you?
It's a great place. It's a very exciting place to live, and just a lot going on for the electronics industry in China and the entire region. And
having been to China several times over the years and to Shanghai as well, you hit the nail on the head with a lot of electronic business happening there, a lot of manufacturing and so forth going on, which is really cool. And that is a hotbed of new technology. So you've been living in Shanghai, but also kind of living in the IBM smart cloud, I'll bet.
I have. And the cloud is just everywhere these days, Dave. And we took that measurement a few years ago about, for a consumer, how often do you get on with a connected device? And we thought it was about 6 or 7 different devices per consumer.
Yeah.
It's growing. It's growing real fast. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. It's just really hard for the consumers to manage all of those devices. Every single one of them seems to come with a gateway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And pretty soon you're going to have a network closet in your house, and you're going to have to turn your wife into a CIO. Right?
Not a bad thing, perhaps, but
for some of us, right?
Yeah, for
some of us. But for most people, they really can't, deal with that. And so the way that the connected devices have grown, there's over 50 different ways or protocols that devices connect. It's very confusing. And so that's why you wind up with all this complexity. And so what we've done, Dave, is essentially worked with a couple of our business partners and come up with a device that is a universal way for your devices to connect to the IBM cloud.
Am I guessing that would be this SHASPA Bridge Developer Kit?
It is, and it's really the smart gate, right? The developer kit is for the consumer electronics manufacturers,
right?
And it's for them to be able to avoid sending the consumer just one more gateway to deal with. And it's really nice in the sense that it sorts through all those 50 different protocols and has one simple way of connecting directly to the IBM cloud.
And I'll bet it's using HDMI, since I'm seeing an HDMI connector on the back.
It is.
As well as USB.
You've got a number of different ways to get in there, right? Yeah.
And as I open it up, look, there's electronics inside. Go figure. It's not a dummy thing. There's actual electronics and printed circuit board and processors and all sorts of fun stuff.
There is. And so our partner Tatung, who's an IBM client and business partner, is actually manufacturing this device. SHASPA, who did a lot of the software, including using IBM's MQTT and IBM's Informix database inside this little device, a database sitting inside this little device.
Nice.
And so it's taking all of that big data that's coming from all of those devices and not only able to store it on here, maybe process some of it, maybe hold some of it back so no one sees it.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially, again, when you talk about consumers, most of us typically don't care how it works, just that it does.
Exactly.
So don't complicate my life with showing me all the stuff I don't really care about or need to know about, but perhaps just make it work.
Exactly. And Dave, we've talked about this before. It needs to be intuitive if you expect the consumers to adopt it. And I think this is one more step along the way. What you saw in terms of smartphones and tablets and interfaces was important,
sure.
But also if the consumer can't get connected easily, they really aren't going to take advantage of a lot of the applications that are out there. And that's why consumer electronics manufacturers are working on these things right now to get that data to really understand how to enhance that consumer experience. So this bridge plays an important role, and using a lot of IBM technology inside makes it very easy for any consumer electronics manufacturer to basically use this type of a gateway as a universal gateway. If the consumer has it, don't need to buy another one.
Sure. And one of the cool things is that we talk a lot, you and I have talked about this over the last few years, about consumer electronics products talking to each other. The ability for them to communicate, to which a lot of the folks in our audience say, why do my consumer electronics have to talk to each other?
Well, there's some great examples, Dave, and that's a great way to think about the social side of the Internet of Things, right? So if you want to, if you've set your thermostat up, use your phone, set your thermostat, and you want things to go up to 75 degrees in the room, and you don't realize that your window's open, but the sensor on the window does. don't you think you really want to run your furnace and just have it run on your way home and find out it's still not warm in your house?
And all you're doing is heating up the neighborhood instead of your home.
Yeah. It's a great example. So if a sensor from Lutron and a device from Emerson on your thermostat were both using this type of a gateway, and they were talking to one another, they can share those messages and start to use the applications to essentially say, don't do that, all right? Or let Dave know that he's got a problem.
Right. It's a lot more than just your alarm clock turning on your coffee maker. And,
yes.
And as we head further into tomorrow, we see the benefits of our devices talking to each other more than just the smartphone syncing with the tablet kind of thing.
Absolutely, Dave. The consumer, if they're going to adopt this technology, needs to see a value proposition.
Yeah.
In entertainment, they clearly did. In a lot of the home automation, it's been really tough to get them to move along. And it's going to be simplicity like this coming from the SmartGate here that is going to help that adoption curve and help the entire industry.
Good. Well, keep living in the IBM Smart Cloud and keep sharing these new innovations with us, and we'll, of course, share it with our audience.
I appreciate it, Dave.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Bruce. Bruce Anderson, General Manager, Global Electronics Industry with IBM. Visit IBM.com, one of the easiest websites you can get to, and you'll see all sorts of info about Smart Cloud, among other things there. And visit IntoTomorrow.com for links to Bruce's site and all of our guests here in Berlin at IFA. Meantime, I'm Dave Graveline. We'll bring you further into tomorrow right after we pay a couple more bills right here on the Advanced Media Network.